you very much, everyone. I'm going to make this a fun session for you and very practical. I'm going to make this a very practical session today for everyone in this room to help guide you on the newest approaches for learning and teaching obstetric anesthesia. I want to learn a little bit about this room first. Raise your hand if you're a student, if you're someone who's learning obstetric anesthesia. Someone in the process, training, learning obstetric anesthesia. Raise your hand if you're a student. Students, raise your hand. Okay. Really? One student? Two students? Teachers, raise your hand if you teach obstetric anesthesia. Okay. A lot of teachers in this room. Zen, raise your hand. Zen mentality. Zen, that you're always a student. You're never a master. You're always learning. Yes, okay, good. We're all students, always learning. So what I want to do today is to talk a little bit about some of the mind frame, the modern mindset of how we learn in 2017, the different approaches and different generations to learning, and then the different tools that we have and how we can maximize the opportunities for learning that we encounter every day. Very quickly about me and my lab. A lot of the work that I'm going to talk about today comes from the AIM lab. We are not for profit, so any of the things that I talk about today that come from the AIM lab, it's not a conflict for me to talk about, I feel, because we don't make any money from any of it. It's not for profit. A lot of the work is funded from NIH, from AHRQ, from IARS. We also have a Wikipedia model, so a lot of departments of anesthesia from around the country donate to help support the work that we do because we give it back to the community. So a lot of the solutions that we create, we make available to other departments of anesthesia, other fellowship programs, and around the country. We have programs in Africa, in Europe, in South America using our products and our solutions. I also want to acknowledge just a few people who are critical to our program. Andrea Trainer, Andrea's right there in the front row, who is very active in SOAP. I know many of you know her. She is one of our core faculty members. She is critical to developing a lot of our obstetric anesthesia resources that I'll be talking about today. Kyle Harrison's in our simulation group, who's worked with Dave Gaba and has done a lot of our collaborations in developing our content there. And what are you going to learn in the next half hour? I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the unique needs of today's learners. How are today's learners different than when you were learning anesthesia? And it's important to understand these differences, because only by understanding how we're different can we then come together and can we optimize the ways that we work and collaborate and learn together. I'll talk a little bit about some of the challenges and opportunities for teaching and learning obstetric anesthesia. And I'll wrap up by talking a little bit about social media and ways that it can be used to improve obstetric anesthesia education. How many of you have dabbled a bit in social media? Dabblers? Okay. I think you'll find this year at the SOAP meeting, you'll find we're starting to that you'll see increased use of social media, and hopefully you'll see in some real ways the benefit over time. So let me start by telling you a little bit about who today's student is. So we've been really lucky because we've been actually surveying on a national level anesthesia residents since 2010. Because one of the things that the students who use all the things that we develop in the AIM lab is they pay it back by filling out surveys. I was told that for Halloween one year, at MGH, a resident dressed up as me, and the costume was I think it was Scrubs, because in all the videos I'm always playing an anesthesia resident, but with a clipboard and a survey, because I always ask them to fill out surveys, always filling out surveys. That was the Halloween costume of me. So we're always asking them to fill out surveys. So we have over 3,000 anesthesia residents surveyed over 7 years. So I think I can give you some real solid data about who anesthesia residents are. I can tell you one thing. They're really knowledgeable about computers. They're really comfortable with technology. And I don't think that's going to surprise you, but nonetheless, I want to show you the data. Because we're medical doctors, we're scientists, we want to see the data. So you can see, for the last 7 years, that hasn't changed. Majority classify themselves as knowledgeable, very knowledgeable, or power users. They will be able to boot up your computer. They are going to be able, some of them can set up Linux. They'll be able to do a lot of things for you. But you know that. I don't have to tell you that. The data shows that. They're knowledgeable about computers. This is a mobile generation, folks. A mobile generation of learners. What we've seen since 2010 is a huge uptake in the adoption of smartphones, from 60% ownership in 2010 to, in the first time in 2015, over 100%. So that in 2016 it was 108% average ownership. They own more than one, guys. Now, for the first time last year, we saw a downtick in iPhones and an uptick in Android, but on average about 75% iPhone. So when we, for instance, develop for mobile, we typically develop for iOS because it's still the pervasive and dominant mobile platform. But Android is gaining. And it's a tablet generation. Though again, last year for the first time, we did see a downtick in iPad and an uptick in Android. So I don't know what that means for Apple. It is, from what I heard, an all-time high in their stock price. I don't know what that means. It's just information. It is a mobile generation. They are very comfortable with technology. They're constantly connected to the internet. It is also a generation that grew up with technology pervasively embedded in their educational experience throughout medical school. So in medical school, they report that they use online videos, online quizzes, online discussion forums, learning management systems, web-based media, social media, tablet-based computers. I bring this up because I always ask myself this question. When they then come to our residency programs, our fellowship programs, what is their expectation of us? When they come to the terminal phase of their professional education, what is their expectation of us to provide them the type of educational experience that they have become accustomed to? And oftentimes, do they arrive with those expectations met, or do they have to lower their expectations because we don't have the educational material delivered in a format and in a frame that they become accustomed to, that their brains have become wired to? Here's another example I love to show. I picked a random day from one of our AIM lab programs called Learnly, which is an online daily incremental learning program. I just picked a random day, and I looked at student interactions with that online system. And what it shows you is that there's not a single hour of the day that goes by where a student isn't learning on that system. I'm not going to be up at 3 a.m. to give a lecture, but if a student, driven by their own desire, as evidenced by their own behavioral footprint, because we see that they logged into the system, that they're completing lessons, decides that that's the right time for them to learn, there's a system to support them. That's the framework of learning in 2017, is that we've created the platform to support people when they want to learn, where they want to learn. And it's a Facebook and YouTube generation, which I'll put in parentheses, Snapchat. That's to come. Social media is something that this generation of learners is comfortable with, increasingly comfortable with. And we, educators, which now I know is a majority of people in this room, are not so comfortable with, but maybe we have to become more comfortable with if we want to reach today's learners where they are. Now, one thing that we have seen over the last 7 years as we've been following these students is that their social media behavior has been one that has been growing towards a pattern of spectatorship. So they're not out there creating content, curating content, collecting content. They're too busy taking care of patients. They're too busy studying for their boards. They're spectators. So I remind us as educators, whose responsibility is it then to be out there creating that quality content? And I would say it's our responsibility. So if we create the content, then we have to deliver it in the right ways. And I'll end with 2 more slides. We ask our students, compared with other students in this class, if they expect to do well. And of course, the majority say yes. They expect to do well. They expect a lot of themselves, and they expect to do well. And they feel that the material being taught in this online class is important. So let me emphasize that again. They feel that the material being taught is important, and they expect to do well. So given those 2 things across 3,000 plus students across 7 years, then the question I have to ask is, as educators, are we living up to their expectations? Are we doing everything we can to help today's students learn when they want to learn, where they need to learn, taking advantage of the opportunities that they have throughout the day? Because a resident's day is very busy. From when they get up in the morning to when they go to bed at night. The one different thing in 2017 that didn't exist in 2007 is this piece of glass and this piece of plastic. And it's circuits, and it's technology, but it's just electrons going through circuits. And what makes it useful are you guys. It's educators. It's the people in this room. It's Andy Trainer. And it's the people who create the educational content. And it's the learning designers. But if we're not thoughtfully using the technology, and we're not understanding the needs of the students, then it doesn't mean anything. So my hope is, and in the last few minutes that I have today, I'm going to kind of show you some examples where I think we can use technology in thoughtful ways, where I think I can kind of plant a seed to inspire you for where we can move forward in obstetric anesthesiology to create some good content. We can create some good solutions. We can think towards the future to meet those expectations of today's learners to help them reach their full potential. So here is one example. This is a short course that we did for teaching general anesthesia for a stat C-section. So we did this course with one of our Stanford faculty, Ed Riley, as well as Steve Lippman. And they did some short lectures on the physiologic changes of pregnancy, a general overview of cesarean section. And then this is where I came in with Kyle Harrison. I did my magic, which is what I discovered I do really well I play a naive resident who doesn't know anything. I do that really well. So in these videos, that's the character that I play. And we start these with a little priming clinical vignette. The idea is, how can we create a just-in-time learning context to pull in the learner to want to learn more? So I'm going to play that for you right now as an example.
Okay, let's get this bit out of here.
All
All right, Lisa, sorry we have to have you go off to sleep to get that baby out of there.
Can we put her in left uterine displacement, please, guys?
All right, Frank, let's do that. Okay.
Kyle, tell me about the patient's obstetric history and medical history. Anything I should know about?
No, healthy, first baby, prolapse cord, stat section, need to go off to sleep now.
Any medications or allergies I should know
No.
about? Okay, and that's anesthetic history?
No, not that I know of.
All right, why don't you get scrubbed, get back in here, and we'll be ready to go.
Okay.
Lisa, I'm Dr. Chu. I'm
scrub
going to be
my
an
hands. John, you ready to
anesthesiologist,
go?
okay?
Okay.
I know it's scary, but we're going to just do a lot of things to get you off to sleep here, okay? Matt, can you put the monitors on for me? Lisa, open your mouth real wide and say, "Aww." Great. I'm just going to check a few things here, Lisa. Okay, laryngoscope, that's working. All right, the tracheal tube, stylet. Okay, the balloon, that's working. Good. I'll check my circuit here, make sure there's no leaks.
Yeah, we just...
Okay, good, no leaks.
Frank, we're coming up.
Okay, give her some Bicitra, please, Matt. Go ahead and give her some non-particulated acid. All right.
Up and over, Anna.
Check my suction real quick. Okay, my suction, that's working.
Anesthesia, great.
I'm going to give you some oxygen to breathe here, okay, Lisa? Frank, can you help me with the drapes there? Hold that mask for me. Okay. Lisa, you're going to go off to sleep soon, okay? I want you to take some nice, big, deep breaths for me. In and out. Just focus on your breathing. We're going to go off to sleep soon, okay?
Has anyone called peds?
Okay, how are we doing right now? How are we doing? Anyone, raise your hand, is your heart beating a little faster? Anyone getting flashback from their last OB call? Okay. All right, so what are some of the unique affordances of this educational model? Well, so one of the things that we thought of was simulation is such a powerful tool for immersive learning. It brings the learner into a situation. It captures their attention. It certainly provides a just-in-time context to wanting to learn more. But what are the disadvantages of simulation? Not every hospital has a simulation center. Not every program has faculty who are trained to do simulation. We can't always get residents out to have a sim session. And also, even if we can, those sessions can maybe happen one time a year. So our concept was, is there a way, and again, it's not to say that this replaces, I don't mean at all to say that this would replace an in-person teaching session. None of what we do online, and I want to repeat that, nothing that we do online is meant to say it should replace anything in person. But is there a unique affordance that in screen-based simulation might provide? And is there something that what you just saw could provide in terms of some of the benefit that participating in a real-life simulation could provide? And when we did this online program, we actually thought yes, that some of the things that you can actually teach through this was surprising to us. Things like you can actually show situational awareness. With a point of view camera, for instance, you can actually show what an attending actually looks at in a crisis, right? You can't even teach that in real life, can you? But you could actually show that here. So there's actually even perhaps some new ways of teaching with technology if you can really be creative and thoughtful about it. And of course, after this little segment, Then we cut to camera, it's me and Kyle, and we're kind of doing a debrief about what you just saw. And we break down the scenario into steps, and we then take through induction, through airway, through all the other steps of the situation. So that's one example. One example. Let me tell you real quick about Learnly. So this is another thing that we've been doing that I think is kind of a good frame for obstetric anesthesiology education and kind of a future view, but also kind of what's happening now. Because this is the platform that Andy Trainer is developing at Stanford with us, developing a lot of obstetric anesthesia content on our Learnly platform. So Learnly is an anesthesiology learning ecosystem. And right now it has a basic science curriculum, and we are adding an advanced curriculum starting with obstetric anesthesiology. The model is pretty simple. It's based on behavior, the neuroscience of behavior change. The idea being that if you have to choose between the carrot or the stick, we always choose the carrot. We want to design for how the brain works, not really about trying to assign content and check if the resident did it, and if they didn't do it, then remind them that they did it, and then if they didn't do it, then they get some points docked off them or something. But instead, let's design for how the brain works, and let's use the science, the neuroscience of behavior change to reward the brain for good behavior. And so what we use is a daily trigger. In this case, it's an email that then leads and prompts the learner to a short reading. They get a knowledge assessment, which is really a series of quiz questions. And they can also choose audio podcast. So they can have an alternative auditory pathway to get the same information. And I'll play it for you.
This is Start Prep Radio Rehash, Episode 10.
So it's just a little fun way. It's a different channel to get the information in case they don't even want to read.
Welcome to Episode 10 of the Start Prep Podcasts. In this episode, we'll review the stages and signs of general anesthesia. This chapter was written by Archer K. Martin, MD, of the Mayo Clinic. In each Start Prep podcast, we'll review the learning objectives, recall our patient case, and highlight key takeaways.
And so there's a patient case
Let's get
and
started.
a clinical scenario that starts each episode. And then there's quiz and assessment so they can check their learning.
Think back to what you already know about general anesthesia. Can you?
Okay, so I think you know enough about general anesthesia, so I'm not going to have to let you listen to the rest of it. We have different verticals. START is for internship, but we also, besides verticals, have specific little deep dive courses. In this case, for obstetric anesthesia, we've created a course on maternal ACLS. And with this course, we're going to put our new cognitive aids that we've developed that we're working on with Jill Hilton in our group. And we also have what we're going to call drip content. Drip, like coffee makers drip. Drip content. The idea being that a resident, when they start their OB anesthesia rotation, can select if it's a 2 or 4 week block, and then modules are dripped in during that period of time. In this case, they're going to learn about spinals, but they'll get a sequence of content dripped in during a 2 or 4 week block so that you have a consistent, high-quality curriculum delivered to the learners over the course of a period of time. And then we also have videos. So this video, by the way, is an example just of what we call a quick look video. So we've already taken the time to explain in a lot of detail how to do an epidural. This is called a quick look summary. So this is like after you've learned it, now you want to go do it. And this is like a quick look, 30 to 60 second quick summary just to remind you what you already learned before you go and do it on a patient.
Numb the patient's skin with the lidocaine, making sure to get a good skin wheel. Wait for the numbing medication to work. Place the TUI needle in the skin until engaged in the ligament. Remove the stylet. Attach the loss of resistance syringe. Slowly advance the TUI needle while putting continuous pressure on the plunger with your right hand. Stop advancing when you obtain a loss of resistance and the plunger injects saline into the epidural space. Remove the syringe. Unpackage the epidural catheter. Feed in the epidural catheter to 20 centimeters at the hub. Count the depth of the epidural space by looking at the markings on the side of the TUI needle. Remove the TUI needle while advancing the epidural catheter so it does not come out of the epidural space. Pull the epidural catheter back of the skin so 5 centimeters of the catheter.
Okay, so that, just a quick example, is just some of the more procedural-based videos that we have that we can assign out to our learners, and that's part of the Learnly obstetric anesthesia content that we're doing. And I'm going to end the last 5 minutes talking about social media. I know, social media. It makes people uncomfortable. I'm sorry. It's okay. It'll be okay. It's only 5 minutes. Okay. Social media. Okay. To reassure you a little bit, I went through the Simpler database, which is pretty much the world's largest database of healthcare social media. And I looked up who are the biggest influencers of obstetric anesthesia topic on social media. So be reassured, doctors, for those of you in the room who are skeptical, doctors are among the biggest influencers of obstetric anesthesia on social media, and you may recognize a few. So this is official Simpler data of the top social media influencers. Ron George. Is Ron George in the room? Where are you, Ron George? Okay, well, he's among the top. Paloma Toledo, our own Alexander Butwick. I feel like this is the Oscars. You must know some of these people. It's reassuring to know that familiar people and voices within this society are recognized already just inherently by the statistics and the statistical models of the Simpler social media data as being top influencers. And what this means actually is that they're doing a good job of representing obstetric anesthesia as a topic on social media, that they're good voices for the specialty, that they're out there being vocal, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing, and I would love to see more voices from our society on this list next year. I also want to suggest some accounts for you to follow on Twitter. How many people are on Twitter? Okay, guys, more please, next year. I need to see more hands raised next year. And here's why. I want to give you some reasons to be on Twitter. Imagine that you have a brilliant friend who's super smart, always reads the latest papers, but doesn't know any of your other friends. This is a friend you keep off to the side. You separate from your other friends because this friend always is telling you the coolest new things, but you don't want your other friends to know because that way you can take credit. That friend is called Twitter. Okay? So, Soap is one of your friends who will share papers, news, information from the society. The OB section of the Canadian Anesthesia Society also posts a lot of research. Alex Butwick posts a lot, actually, on Twitter as well. about OB anesthesia. So there are actually plenty of, and then of course I shared the slides, you can get it on the talks later, of the top influencers in OB anesthesia. Follow any of the top influencers on OB anesthesia. I suspect a lot of you are not on Twitter because you don't know who to follow. I just gave you that list of your secret friends off to the side. All you have to do is follow them. Every day they're going to give you a list of all the amazing obstetric anesthesia paper and news, and you just read through it, and you're going to be the one who's going to look smart at the water cooler with the latest news every day. Please don't forget, besides following people, you can also post things. I know that sounds scary, but it's not. You can share your own thoughts. And when you do share things, you can also add what's called a hashtag, so that lets other people know, you're talking about a certain topic. And SOAP AM 2017 is a way to share your thoughts about the annual meeting. How many people are going? I'm going. Who else is going? Okay. So the SOAP annual meeting 2017, if you can't make it, you can follow along on what's being said. You can look at the slides, pictures that are being taken. You don't have to miss out on the action because you can also follow along on the conversation on Twitter as well through that hashtag, often before blog posts are being written or anything's being reported. Okay, so I'm going to end there because I'm out of time. I hope you found that this talk gave you some practical points for taking back with you to your home institutions about implementing some new ways of thinking about OB anesthesia. I want to remind you that all the lectures for Saul Shnider are being posted online. And in fact, my amazing team, Paul and Connor in the front row here, have already recorded and posted all of the lectures yesterday online. So they're actually already available on Anesthesia Illustrated. So they're already on the website. And then for anyone who wants to use any of our stuff, I just call it stuff. Anybody who wants to use any of it, contact us. We want to share. So if you like what you saw, if you want to use anything, any of the obstetric anesthesia content that Dr. Trainer is developing as part of Learnly, or you want to help us create new obstetric anesthesia content, we love to work with people and we love to share what we do with other people. So contact us. Thank you so much.